right? Everything almost, right? For that, great love. I think we never even kissed. I think we just hugged. And that was about as far as it got. Her father, plugged into, I used to say jokingly that there's an organization around called PAG, Parents Against Gafni. Her father became the head of the local PAG chapter, and did everything he could successfully trying to break up the fulfillment of that relationship, But I remember deeply that just this deep, and I kind of felt like that it was more important than anything else in the world. That was so important, and it was for its own sake. And what was so seductive to me about it was that it didn't gain me anything in the world. Right? It wasn't.
Lost you everything.
Lost you everything. You have to give up everything.
Everything for this love.
Everything for this love. Rabbinic position. Ability to write books. I mean, just everything that was valuable to me. You have to give up for it. Now, of course, it didn't work too well, Luke. I gave up everything for it, and then she didn't appear. As the PAG chapter kind of, overrode it. But and I was devastated. I was devastated. I was completely devastated. I'll actually tell you something which I only once in my life worked out like intensely. That kind of male thing. I'm going to work out every day. Tom Cruise. So that's how I actually help clubs make money, because we always sign up and never go. But I had like 4 months where I went, and those 4 months were after this thing fell apart. I was 31, and the only way I just would go 5 times a week. And I was living in a little place called Kiryat Ono near Bar-Ilan University in Israel. And I was like the littlest guy in the gym. And I was ruining it. And I would like do my, pumping it up and down just because it was the only way I could survive. And then about 6-7 weeks later, she got engaged to someone else. The last thing she said to me was, "I'll always love you." and I remember the day she got married. I mean, I was just screaming tears, little Gafni trying to pump iron, in this it wasn't a health club, it was like a gym, and oh my God. And so being the great love, has always been really important to me, and the great love is monogamous. Yeah. I mean, the great love that you've described is monogamous. Yeah. And I have not succeeded to this point in my life in accomplishing that. And that great desire, you remember Herman Hesse's book, Narcissus and Goldman? Yeah. It's more about sexuality, but that kind of split in me, that kind of deep desire to have this great love, and the feeling that somehow that was the most holy thing in the world, drove a lot of my life. And of course we can psychologize it, and I don't like reducing things to psychologization. I don't like reducing you or me to psychologization. I think we're more complex than that, but that's clearly driven a lot of my life. There's a second belief, that I've had parallel to this throughout my whole life. And the person that he talks about this best is Osho. I don't know if you know who Osho is. Osho is a kind of very complex, ultimately, Eastern philosopher fellow. And he talks a lot about this, and and other people do as well, which is the following notion, which is very, very different. And that is that, and this is a very masculine perspective, and this is very actually expressed in your aphorism, which is every meeting by itself is beautiful. And that actually sexuality by itself, when it's not just consensual, when it's mutual, in whatever form it is, when it's mutual, when it's mutual love and play, it's so beautiful, it's so gorgeous, it's so sacred, it's holy of holies, and that every sexual encounter by itself, right, is an invitation to integrity, is not just light that fills a vessel, it's its own life. And that every sexual encounter by itself, right, invites us to loyalty, to respect, to dignity. You asked me before about this book, Mystery of Love, that you hadn't heard about. Mystery of Love is about this. You'll like this one less than Soul Prince, I promise.
That's not possible.
but it's actually, I think it's a beautiful book that I love a lot. And so one of the things we talk about there, right, this actually might resonate with you more than Soul Prince, right, because your girlfriend wouldn't like it, right? But it talks about just, what does it mean to be a great lover? To be a great lover is not just to be a great giver, also be a great receiver. So in love, for example, giving and receiving are one. In sexuality, sexuality requires not being in control, but giving up control. Sexuality is a place where, I allow the fantasy of imagination, to run gorgeously wild, and we access that gorgeous faculty of human imagination. The word Adam in Hebrew means dimayon, imagination, or homo imaginus. And it's very, very powerful, time shifts. We have an enormous desire to give and not merely to take. In other words, the sexual itself is this gorgeous container, and that actually, if men and women can meet in that gorgeousness, it itself can be a strong enough, vessel if we listen to the sexual and let it teach us its wisdom for all the potential degradation, which is there, but there's also potential light, And I always had a romanticized vision, of the light. And, for a period of my life, particularly the period before Bayit Hadash, closed, had a number of relationships, right, in which were all, fully mutual, no false promises of exclusivity, no false promises of marriage, but, also weren't, as you described, relationships for life, right? So therefore they had the potential for hurt, that you described in them, which is real, right? And, I was kind of trying to see what's possible. What's possible. By the way, it didn't work. To kind of share that with you. But and I take responsibility, for anyone who is, emotionally hurt in that process. In other words, I take responsibility for that. And, remember Bono. Bono thinks we hurt each other and we do it again. I just want to offer you something, which moves us to a different place, and we can get back to this. Which is stop. So let's hold the you play. Let's stop here. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Thank you.
My first girlfriend, the first woman that I ever had sex with, she told me, you play with the girl's feelings, and then you say you need to act in your own self-interest.
Right.
Basically, you're saying once you're having sex with me, you can't expect me to actually act in my self-interest. You've gotten me.
Right.
Gotten me in deep.
Meaning, so that's not right. So that's very beautiful. That's not a legal category, right? That's not even an ethical category. It's more of it's a deeper category. It's about spirit, and again, I want to inhabit before I get out, right? So I was going to say out loud. So Luke is saying, I'm sorry to talk about you in your third person for a second. So I'm saying it to myself, right? That that his first girlfriend said to him, on the one hand, you're kind of being sexual with me, so my feelings are at play here completely. On the other hand, you're telling me, act autonomous in your own self-interest, but actually I'm incapable of doing that.
Yeah,
once we're sexually involved. Once we're sexually involved. Which I assume what diddling means.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I'm extending my vocabulary. So I think there's a profound truth to that.
Yeah.
I think there's a profound truth to that. In other words, that is, on the one hand, and again, classical feminist theory is going to take complete issue with what you said. And it's basically, you're moving us back to pre-feminism. You're saying, once a woman's sexually involved, she can no longer be autonomous and powerful.
Exactly.
Right? Which is against everything that feminism was trying to teach. Right? Which feminism says actually, women can be autonomous and powerful. Women can be sexually autonomous and powerful. Women can make sexual choices. Women can choose to have sexual relationships for pleasure. Women can choose to have sexual relationships, right, for friendship and intimacy. And I have to tell you, I thought that was possible. I believed the feminist position, and it's very possible that part of the reason I believed it was because, as a man, I wanted to believe it.
Exactly.
Right? In other words, part of the reason I kind of, believed it was because, for me, right, it was actually a very beautiful experience. Right? And it's for me, I thought that each one of these relationships, which was unique, which based on affection, was beautiful, but that what I was actually not understanding was that actually this feminist position, right, actually may be actually incorrect, and that one of the things I need to understand was the second that we're sexually involved, it's harder, right, to actually act, with